So the Tibetans have a holiday, if you will, called Losar. I don't know if any of you have heard of Losar. Losar is the Tibetan word for New Year. Um, it is seen to be a joyful time, no matter how hard life may have been in the prior year. There is this quality of kind of working with the negativity that may have accumulated over the year and really seeking in community to make food and reclaim a sense of joy, of wonder. Often at the end of our dedication, we will say the word Emaho Zoha. Yeah? Emaho means, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it magnificent? And largely, this is referring to just this reminder that we are on a path. If you are here today, there is a path there. Yeah, your life is a path, and there are parts of this path that really are magnificent. It's not just effort. In fact, when the path can become somewhat effortless, we have this opportunity to begin again. Only we are never beginning in the same place that we have begun in the past, no matter how we feel. And so Losar is kind of a recognition of some of these things. And there are festivals, there's a lot of food. Generally speaking, let's see, this year, some sources say that Losar is February 21st, so we're a little ways away from that at the moment. But another source, and a lot of this depends on the region, whether or not it's in line with the Chinese astrology. The Tibetan calendar has its own kind of framework. So some say that it started on December 29th and will go for 2 weeks. So there are some variations here, but largely it seemed to be something that occurs in a 3-day period leading up to New Year's Day. And usually the first day, so this would have been the day before yesterday, it involves cleaning, it involves sweeping, just getting everything in your house in order. Yeah, there's a lot of basically dispelling with the old residues of one's life and making it fresh. And part of this, I think, what it's telling us, whether or not, this is a ritual we have. I know my housemates this weekend were vacuuming and cleaning, and I thought, oh, this is what they do in Losar. This is cool. I don't think they know that, but there is something sort of basic and wholesome about that. Yeah, that's just human nature, perhaps. Um, and then there's a lot of preparing of food. There is barley wine that is made and drunk the second day on the early morning when arise. So I can't drink alcohol in the morning. If I do, I'm no good for the rest of the day. But this kind of shows you the spirit of the attitude that this is not a time of effort. Yeah, that New Year's is not a time of effort. It is really a time of releasing into renewal and allowing the energies, the wholesome energies of life to kind of take back the field of awareness, center stage, if you will. So the second day is largely when all of this wonderful food that has been prepared is then eaten and feasted in community with families and villages. They also will set off firecrackers to dispel evil spirits. Yeah, this is meant to be, don't even think about it. We are doing something really important here, and you're not going to mess it up for us. Yeah. So firecrackers, straw torches, torches made of straw burning fire, as well as practicing going to the monasteries and practicing what are called sort of wrathful deities, protective deities. This is the term in Sanskrit is Dharma pala. And these are beings that are there that are fierce. Maybe you've seen images of these beings that are just, they look scary. Yeah, and they have claws and teeth and eyes everywhere, and just almost looking mad. And those are the beings that are there. They're really representing protection from negativity because they are basically protecting our practice out of deep, fierce compassion. And so this is seen to be very important in the new year, is protecting one's space, protecting one's space for practice, for benefit, for abundance. Yeah. And then on the third day, New Year's Day, which would be today, um, then offerings are made. Yeah, offerings of food. If one has an altar, if one has a shrine, or one is at a temple, offerings of food, incense, what's called the first water is performed, meaning that one rises very, very early and gathers the first water of the year from the river or from the lake. And this water is seen to be at its utmost pure. And so it's this kind of clear, pure sense of starting fresh, of freshness. You know? This is taken very seriously. Um, and part of it is, I think what this is asking us to do is reflect on the role of ritual. How important ritual can be for us, especially if there is any kind of feeling of helplessness or sorrow. If we're expecting ourselves or others are expecting us to change, I don't know if you have New Year's resolutions. That can be kind of daunting. At least for me, it has been. Just to think that it's January 1st and I can find a new wellspring of discipline. Unless I'm really devoted to it, it's probably not going to last. Maybe this is your experience. I don't know. And if I do have that kind of devotion, it doesn't have to be starting on the 1st. I'm always beginning again. Yeah. Anyway, and also on this New Year's Day, people will burn pine branches or cypress branches as purification, this aromatic smoke that almost purifies the air, unless you're allergic to smoke, in which case that could be a little daunting. But herbs, things like sage, perhaps we're more familiar with. And a lot of this, rather than dispelling negativity, is there as gratitude. And on the first, then the sense of gratitude and an offering to the beneficial deities, to the beings that are there supporting our lives. So I find that really really kind of impactful in many ways. And the point to a lot of this is to maybe think about what kind of ritual matters to you? What kind of things in that question of where are you in this new year? Yeah, what is alive for you today? Is to also think about how might ritual play into your life as well. And, you know, if your habit, like in my family, is watching news regularly, what's going on out there today. I was just in Allentown, where Ann is, and with my mother, and you know, we spend a lot of time kind of catching up on how we're feeling about the state of our political situation in our country and what's happening around the world. Um, and I'll tell you where I am with this right now. I feel like this year is a really good year to perhaps lay some of that aside. It doesn't mean that we're not concerned. It doesn't mean that we don't take action or continue doing work, service work, or informing ourselves. But what I mean is really the amount of energy externalized into all of these things that are triggering. Yeah. But rather focusing on creativity this year. This seems like a good year to do this because I don't know about you, but as the election comes up next year, as we start really sort of ramping up, we're going to need some kind of resilience that we can cultivate. And what a great time to be intentional about creating a space that will impact what happens next. And this can be collective, it can be personal, but the kind of consciousness that we are cultivating now determines the outcome. It determines what will then arise next. And this is a universal principle, certainly in the Buddhist tradition, around cause and effect. So this is an open question. What if we use this year as a way to cultivate a sense of relating differently, perhaps, than we have been the last few years? Certainly, we've had to be vigilant with our health and in communities and with the uncertainty of the pandemic and wars around the world and in Ukraine and so on. But we also need creativity, and we need to really invest in community. Very, very important, I think. So let's see. And then the last piece here. Oh, I was going to also share with you this wonderful view that Rumi has, the Sufi poet, who instructs us during difficult times. He says, turn towards what you deeply love, and it will save you. Turn towards what you deeply love, and it will save you. In essence, reflecting here not just on where I am now, but what are my aspirations? Yeah, what are the things I really would like to cultivate, I would like to see in my life, and what I might share with others. So it's not just a solitary inward process. It can be reflective. But what might I like to share with others? I spent a lovely day on Friday with someone I did not know very well, but she knew a dear friend of mine who died in 2020 from COVID. And Jim knew him, Michael, and she came to me at Harvard Divinity School. We were having Seasons of Light, as we do every year, and Darren, who was also in our group, he and I were playing a song for this this event, and she came up to me and said, "I knew Michael, and I have not processed his loss yet, but I really would love to talk to you more about what happened during his last days." And so we went to his grave. We had a lovely time. She's retired, and yet has discovered jazz and has taught herself to play the piano. She is brilliant jazz pianist. And she just started doing this over the pandemic. She was living alone and decided she would start learning piano. So I had brought my guitar to the gravesite. And so we went back to her home for tea. And she said, "Bring your guitar with you. Bring it up here." So I brought it up. And we actually had a little jam session in her living room. She has this beautiful Steinway grand piano she had inherited from her mother. But it was that feeling. She said, "I just want to create a community of music this year." This is her aspiration. A community of musicians who gather in my home, play music, we can jam, and we can really appreciate kind of what it is that this kind of creative endeavor arises for us, as opposed to just sitting around and talking and about problems, but rediscovering kind of life through creativity. And I thought that's exactly right. This is perhaps what we need. So there is the ritual piece, there is the creativity, and beginning again. Yeah. But as I mentioned, just as in meditation, if we start to drift, if the mind wanders, we can always come back, begin again. But we're not beginning again in the same place. Yeah? We're always a little bit different from one moment to the next. So there is this almost illusion of regression. It may feel like we're repeating cycles and patterns, certainly collectively, but we are always in a new moment. And as we know, the truth of impermanence allows things to come together, to gather in a certain way, and disperse and give way to new causes and conditions, and they may be very familiar. But the truth of impermanence, all things arise and disperse, as do the causes. Some take a long time to disperse, perhaps, some tendencies, what we might call collective karmas. But that doesn't mean that we believe in the absolute permanence of anything that we can experience. So hopefully, I'm hoping this is a pep talk, and also will help you to think a bit more if you're not sure, what does 2023 hold for me? Maybe these are some avenues that might speak to you.